The call came in while I was standing beneath the white lights of the boutique, eyes fixed on the hollow square of velvet where the ring had rested less than an hour before. Her name glowed on my screen. I let it buzz itself quiet. I already knew the script. A shaky explanation. A soft voice pretending not to understand why things felt wrong. But that kind of innocence had slipped away days ago, the moment she exhaled and turned the ring between her fingers and said, almost absent-mindedly, that her former boyfriend would have bought her a diamond without ever risking her feelings. She hadn't meant it as cruelty. That was the part that cut deepest. It fell from her lips like an unguarded truth. I stood there while she admired the ring I'd worked myself thin to afford. Late nights, missed meals, extra hours stacked onto exhaustion. She never noticed my knuckles trembling or the sudden emptiness spreading through my chest. All she saw was him, reflected in the glass. The clerk asked if I needed help. I nodded once, too calmly, and slid the ring back across the counter. I asked for a return. Outside, the air felt sharp, almost hostile, as if it were daring me to fall apart. I didn't. My phone rang again. I ignored it. Some realizations don't need discussion. They need space. I kept replaying the moment, not her words but her expression. The way her face softened when she said his name. Unfiltered. Vulnerable. That look had never been meant for me. And suddenly, everything else rearranged itself into clarity. The phone she always set face down. The way she went quiet whenever his city came up. The delays, the distance disguised as fatigue. I hadn't been suspicious. I'd been perceptive. And once perception hardens into certainty, it becomes merciless. I didn't confront her. I didn't demand answers. I watched. I noticed how she smiled at messages she never mentioned, how she measured me against someone she never named, how every plan for our future sounded provisional when she described it. That's when it hit me. I wasn't up against another man. I was up against a memory she was still protecting. And you don't defeat ghosts by shouting. You let them reveal themselves. I stopped reading messages closely and started noting times instead. Patterns told the story better than words. Her busy nights lined up too neatly with his online presence. Her sudden moods matched his visits to town. None of it was accidental. I stayed composed, almost detached. My thoughts were precise. If I confronted her now, she'd deny it. If I waited, she'd relax. And comfort always breeds mistakes. I became neutral. Not distant, not warm. Just unreadable. It unsettled her more than anger ever could. She began calling more often, probing, trying to gauge where she stood. I gave her nothing. Then one evening she stumbled. She mentioned a restaurant I'd never been to with her, described the lighting, the corner booth, the music. I smiled. I knew that place well. It was his favorite. That was when the pain stopped and the planning began. A week later, she asked about the ring. I told her evenly that I'd taken it back. She laughed, thinking it was a joke, until she saw my expression. Her breath hitched. The certainty she carried cracked. She asked why. I looked at her without anger, without warmth, the way a professional delivers an irreversible diagnosis. I said it wasn't meant for someone whose heart was still occupied elsewhere. The silence between us was explosive.
She cried.
She denied. Then she admitted just enough to ease her conscience. She said she was confused. She said he didn't matter anymore. I didn't respond. I stood up and walked away. That's when the flood started.
Calls.
Messages.
Panic. It didn't move me.
Days turned into weeks. I rebuilt my routines, my sleep, my sense of command over my own life. One night, she finally understood what she'd lost. Not the ring. Not even the relationship. The version of me that loved without holding back. Her voice fractured when she called. She said she hadn't thought I'd really leave. That was the last lie she ever told herself. She assumed I'd stay. I ended the call quietly, blocked the number, moved the refunded money back into my account, and spent it on myself. Sometimes I imagine her replaying that moment. The sigh, the name, the ring in her hands, trying to figure out when everything unraveled. It didn't happen at the counter. It happened when I understood I deserved to be chosen fully, not kept as an emotional contingency. I don't resent her. Resentment requires attachment. What I have now is clarity. And clarity is far colder than revenge.